Hi, lovely and darling viewers. It's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing Black Panther and Crew, We Are the Streets. This is from 2017. Writing and art on this is by Ta-Nehisi, Yona, Harvey, Butch, Gucci, Mack, Scott, Hanna, and Dan Brown. And all those names are in the description below, and sorry if I mispronounce anything in this video. So this is a 6-issue run. So these comics follow the aftermath of a longtime Harlem activist, Ezra Keith, who's died. But he's died in police custody in suspicious circumstances, and Ezra Keith has been like a strong vocal force in Harlem for several decades, going all the way back to the 1950s. And he definitely has enemies, and he definitely has enemies within like the jail. He's constantly getting arrested, kind of a thorn on their side. And so the fact that nobody could tell them exactly how he died is just, it's infuriating the entire community. So the entire Black community in Harlem is up in arms. And this is the scene that we kind of step into. So each of these comics is narrated by a different character in these. So the first one, we meet Misty Knight, who is a police officer. And she's called in by the family to see if, as an insider, as one of the cops, if she can find out how Ezra died. And as she starts investigating, she finds out things really are suspicious. They're not just making things up, that there's something a little bit weird happening here. So eventually this leads to other superheroes getting involved, and that includes Storm, the Black Panther, Luke Cage, and Manifold. And each of them have their own abilities and their own reason why they care and are involved. I mean, they're all Black superheroes, but they still each have like their own connection to Harlem and to Ezra. That makes them invested in the story. So going into this, I didn't know much about any of these superheroes, any of this crew, except for Storm, and I've been reading the Black Panther comics recently. So Misty appears to be a police officer who has her own like cybernetic implants. I think that's what's up with her. But mostly she's approaching this from the police angle, trying to look for truth and justice in this case. Then we've got Storm, who is one of the X-Men, and she has the ability to control weather. That comes into play in this one. The Black Panther, T'Challa, is the king of Wakanda, and they are a technologically advanced race, so there's some cool gadgets going on in here. But he also has mad street fighting skills, which also is helpful. Then we have Luke Cage, who I think it's just like strength and stuff as a superpower and like a go-to-ness. He doesn't seem to have anything like too special about him other than the fact that he has all these connections, at least in this storyline. And then Manifold is the one that I knew absolutely nothing about. And Manifold can open these portals through time and space, so they can start off in one place and then get shot to like the other side of Harlem, or the other side of the country, or the other side of the universe, which is pretty cool. So it was cool to see each of these characters, and each of these comics is narrated by a different one, so we get to hear their experiences in the story from their perspective. So getting inside their heads, which I really liked. So part of the story is told through flashbacks. So like the very opening panel is 1957 in the Bronx, and we find out that Ezra had his own team of superheroes behind him and backing him. These guys, and that they've been standing up for the rights of African Americans in Harlem for decades, and that they've had this revolution and this resistance happening already. And we get to find out throughout the story arc more about Ezra and his cause, and also why some of the other guys that he was aligned with were helping, and that things didn't necessarily always go peachy and perfect over the decades. So we're starting in the 50s, we see flashbacks into the 1960s and the 1970s also, and see how their group was formed and what they're fighting and what they're up against. We've also got the modern day in Harlem, and the police isn't it like they're not just up against the police and trying to find out the truth. The police have subcontracted out to this company that has robotic police officers patrolling the street, and are putting Harlem in lockdown, which is like, it just seems like the police are trying to start something, like going from these relatively peaceful protests to putting the pressure and putting in a pressure cooker and making it explode. Like they want to fight. Also, there's some like questionability about the how safe is it to have robots patrolling the streets and enforcing the law, especially in an extreme circumstance like a lockdown, where if you're just on the street, you can get attacked. completely take the human element out of the police force, and is that good? So, going into this, I really enjoyed trying to figure out what is happening, so I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to spoil what is behind Ezra's death and what the community is up against. I thought the message of protesting was really important, and it's more reminiscent of, say, reading some of the stuff that I've been reading lately, like I Am Alfonso Jones and The Hate You Give. So it feels here and now in contemporary events, what's on the news. But at the same time, this has been happening for several decades. They started this fight back in the 1950s, and so we really get to see that this is kind of an accumulation of things. We also see different viewpoints about how African Americans should stand up for their rights and seek justice. And it's not always straightforward. There's a little bit of gray area, and when exactly do you cross that line? And when do you go too far and start devaluing your cause? Like, if you're too militant or too outside the law, are you any better than somebody who might pervert the justice system for their own cause? So there's a lot of talk about race and the history of how African Americans are treated in America. So it's not just the here and now, but it feels contemporary in issues that are being brought forth and drawn attention to, like Black Lives Matter and police brutality. Like, that is very much a part of this comics also. So my favorite in these were Storm and Misty, the girls. But also Storm's got some mad powers, and I probably see myself more as Misty, as investigating what's going on without using too much superpowers. So on the whole, I really enjoyed this run. It's short. Also, it's only 6 issues and then it's done. Which on one hand, I want more of this world and Harlem and what's happening, and is anything going to change? But also that's kind of a question for our broader society. Can we change it? Because it's not just what's happening fictionally in Harlem or the Marvel Universe, but also what's happening in our own world. I enjoyed this comic. I read it all this morning, and it was super quick, and it's thought-provoking, but at the same time kind of inspiring, and I enjoyed that. So, on the whole, this run got 4 stars from me, and I totally recommend it if any of it even remotely sounds interesting. And I think it's also awesome that we have a comic strip that is led by a group of Black superheroes, so not just following 1 or 2, but a whole crew of them, and dealing with those kind of issues, but also just kind of truth and justice being important as part of this. I definitely need to go read more about Manifold and Misty Knight for sure now. Peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye.